Asvirativanu televik. Partika patika. Pesach pore. Scown.
If you watched the Oscars live in 2010, like millions of others, you probably expected Avatar to win Best Picture. And when it didn't, like many others, you were probably upset.
Are you fucking kidding me? We're going to run you motherfuckers right now!
At the time, for those who weren't alive yet, Avatar was the biggest movie the world had ever seen. The effects were groundbreaking, James Cameron had returned after a long hiatus, and of course, it was the dawn of cinema's worst invention, 3D. In 2009 through 2010, you couldn't go anywhere without hearing about Avatar. I distinctly remember my 8th grade math teacher foregoing almost an entire assignment to just talk to us about the movie after he's seen it. Earth Day became synonymous with the movie, and sequels were immediately greenlit. So, what happened? As the years went on, people started to dislike Avatar. People started looking back on it negatively instead of fondly. It seemed to get to the point where even bringing up Avatar awakened some sort of hatred in people. Oddly enough, some of the people in my personal life who now look back on Avatar with distaste are people I remember loving it. Avatar isn't the first, nor will it be the last movie to deal with audience reactions changing over time. Blade Runner was panned upon release to later become a cult classic. BVS and Man of Steel were both disastrously responded to, but somehow led to an entire Snyder Cut movement. But in my opinion, Avatar seems to have encountered the most drastic change, going from the world's most beloved movie to what people now call the most overrated movie of all time. And I'd like to talk about why I think that's bullshit. I want to start off by saying, in retrospect, Avatar totally did not actually deserve the Best Picture Oscar. Hurt Locker wins that argument every time. But that doesn't make it a bad movie. It isn't the best movie either, but I feel like people only work in those two extremes. A movie is either hot garbage or the greatest thing to happen to cinema. Even on an objective level, though, structurally, it is almost perfect. I mean, you got your setup, your world building, rising action, climax, resolution, and the characters have well fleshed out arcs, especially our hero, Jake Sully. Despite its inevitable Oscar campaign, Avatar mainly set out to be one thing: a big blockbuster event that the whole family could enjoy. And it succeeds at that. It has all the ingredients of a great epic: a fantastical world, epic action sequences, a great amount of heart, and a character for the audience to follow on this journey. And that's all it needs to be: an adventure for us to enjoy. Aside from visual effects, Avatar really had no place with the other Oscar bait films, and I think that was the first mistake that led people to find it overrated. I, probably like you, hear this a lot. Honestly, upon writing this, I realized it's a hard argument to dispute, not because I agree, but because something's popularity rating is purely subjective. But I'm gonna do my best. I really don't think Avatar is or was ever overrated. Currently, I think it's highly underrated. A lot of people like to fault the movie because it's aged poorly. Not only do I disagree, this just really isn't fair. All movies age. Most of our favorite films don't hold up to today's standards. John Carpenter's The Thing was a heavyweight pioneer in practical effects that we still adore to this day, despite the fact that some of those effects are now dated. Nobody writes angry comments about Jurassic Park not holding up to modern technology. Avatar is held to a weird standard that other films are not. Movies really should be appreciated for what the artist could do at that time. And in the case of Avatar, I think that is especially true. James Cameron has always been a revolutionary filmmaker, and with Avatar, him and his team had to invent brand new technology for this to even work. The making of this film surpassed a decade of hard work from so many people. Sure, the concept of motion capture creating highly realistic characters is common now, but at the time it wasn't. Without this movie, we might not have had Thanos or Caesar look so damn good. Avatar is a massive pioneer in visual effects, the same way Terminator 2 or Jurassic Park were. Yet it doesn't get the same appreciation. Why? Is it because people love to hate things that are popular? Is it because MCU fans don't want it overshadowing Marvel's success? Or is it just a trend like hating Nickelback? It's probably a mix of all of the above. Now, of course, there are people who genuinely dislike it, and to each their own. But the immense amount of people who claim it to be overrated comes from somewhere else. Like, on an objective, critical level, as I've mentioned, there really isn't much bad you can say about it. Visually, it's a masterpiece, and narratively, it's also exceptionally structured. The plot carries you from point A to point B very nicely. The characters, even the antagonizing ones, are likable, and the movie manages to maintain entertainment value at its long 2.5 hour runtime. Now, I know some of you just winced when I said narratively it's exceptional, as one of the other biggest gripes with this movie is that it's the most unoriginal movie ever. Okay, what's the most original movie ever then? Because I assure you it's not MCU movies. They are all just cookie cutter replicas of one another. Even DC now follows one hero archetype storyline with fill in the blanks. I know it's not the thousands of comedies and slashers that mimic story patterns. Is it the Fast and the Furious? No, wait, must be Stranger Things. I'm sure you get my point by now. Since when did originality become such a gripe with mainstream audiences? I mean, it surely doesn't bother them in any of the previous franchises, but why with Avatar? Now, I'm not making the point that Avatar is original. It's 100% Dances with Wolves and Pocahontas with a twist. But who cares? Aren't 99% of movies a combination of other movies but with a twist? Almost all superhero movies derive from mythology or Robin Hood or Zorro. All slasher films are basically copycats of Halloween. And how many times has someone recommended you a movie by saying, "Oh, it's like Harry Potter but in space"? Random example, but you get my point. Avatar is held to a far more unrealistic standard than any other movie. Sure, it's inspired by stories as old as time, like all artists are. Everything is somehow inspired by something else, especially in art. This is true across all mediums, too. But I'm going to let Commissioner Gordon explain this one better.
What about escalation?
Escalation.
We start carrying semi-automatics, they buy automatics. We start wearing Kevlar, they buy armor-piercing rounds. And you're wearing a mask, jumping off rooftops. Now take this guy.
Obviously, a slightly different scenario, but it's the same idea. Saying James Cameron just made Pocahontas with blue monkeys is such a gross exaggeration. There is more than enough original material here for Avatar to stand on its own feet. And finally, for those who just find it long and boring, I really don't have anything to say to you, partly because of what I said before, that it's subjective, mainly because I think it's an overused gripe. The same people who sit through 8 hours binging one show in a night complain when a movie is 2 hours long. The same people who complain about bad stories and writing are the people who complain when a movie actually takes time to world build. It really is just complaining to complain, which is the conclusion I came to upon making this video. People hate Avatar because that's what's cool to do right now. And that sucks. Avatar was a terrific movie then, and it still is now. And if you haven't seen it, I urge you not to let people ruin it for you. With that said, also don't let people overhype it for you. I made this video not to blow smoke up its ass, but to be fair, and to explain why I think the hate for it is unjust. This movie is a fun and emotional ride in a surreal and beautiful world that I, for one, can't wait to see more of.